Have you ever wondered why the first person to solve a puzzle struggles for hours, but the second person solves it faster? Why do dogs around the world suddenly learn the same new trick at the same time? Why does it feel like once one person learns something, it becomes easier for everyone else? What if I told you there's a theory that says the universe has a memory? And every time you learn something, every time you do something, you're not just changing yourself, you're changing reality for everyone else too. This sounds like magic, but a scientist spent 40 years studying this. His name is Rupert Sheldrake, and his theory is called Morphic Resonance. Today, we're going deep into one of the most mysterious and controversial ideas in science. By the end of this video, you'll never look at learning habits or even your own thoughts the same way again. So stay with me because what you're about to hear might just change everything you think you know about reality. Let me start with a real experiment that shocked scientists. In the 1920s, a psychologist named William McDougall did something unusual. He trained rats to escape from a water maze. The first rats, they made over 200 mistakes before learning the way out. But here's where it gets weird. He kept training new rats, generation after generation. And something impossible started happening. The rats got better and better, even though they had never seen the maze before. By the last generation, rats were making only 20 mistakes. You might think maybe the smart rats had babies and the babies inherited the skill, right? That's evolution. But then scientists in Australia decided to repeat the same experiment. They used completely different rats that had never been related to McDougall's rats from the other side of the world. And guess what? These rats also learned faster. They made fewer mistakes from the very beginning. How is that possible? The Australian rats never met the American rats. They didn't share genes. They didn't share parents. But somehow they learned faster. It was like the universe remembered what the first rats learned and made it easier for all other rats. This is the mystery that Rupert Sheldrake wanted to solve. Rupert Sheldrake is a biologist from England. He studied at Cambridge and Harvard. He is a smart, respected, but also one of the most controversial scientists alive. Why? Because in 1981, he published a book called A New Science of Life. And in that book, he said something that made traditional scientists very, very angry. He said, nature doesn't follow fixed laws. Nature follows habits. Think about that for a second. We're taught that the universe runs on laws, right? Gravity is a law. Physics is a law. Chemistry is a law. But Sheldrake said, what if these aren't laws? What if they're just habits? Habits that the universe learned over time. He said the first time an atom formed, the universe had to figure out how. But after that first time, it became easier. The universe remembered. And every atom after that formed faster because of that memory. He called this memory morphic resonance. The word morphic means related to form or shape, and resonance means vibration or connection. So morphic resonance means things in the present connect to similar things from the past. When you learn something new, you're not just learning it for yourself. You're creating a memory in an invisible field, a field that makes it easier for the next person to learn the same thing. Now you might be asking, what is this field? Where is it? Sheldrake calls it a morphic field. Think of it like an invisible cloud of memory that surrounds everything. Every animal, every plant, every crystal, every habit has its own morphic field. And here is the key. These fields are not inside your brain. They're around you. Your brain is like a TV. The TV doesn't create the show. It receives signals. Your brain receives memories and habits from the morphic field. Let me give you an example. Why does a baby bird know how to build a nest, even if it never saw its parents build one? Scientists say it's instinct. But what is instinct? Where is it stored? Sheldrake says it's stored in the morphic field of all birds. Every bird that ever built a nest added to that field. So when a new bird is born, it taps into that field and already knows what to do. The same thing happens with humans. Why do kids around the world learn to speak at the same age, even in totally different cultures? Because language is part of the human morphic field. Why do certain ideas seem to appear in multiple places at once? You've heard of this, right? Two inventors create the same invention at the same time, even though they never met. Scientists call it simultaneous discovery, but Sheldrake says it's because once one person thinks a new thought, that thought enters the morphic field, and it becomes easier for others to think the same thought. Let me give you some wide examples from nature that support this theory. In England, in the 1920s, there were blue-tits birds. Milk was delivered in bottles, and the bottles had foil caps. One day, a few clever birds learned to poke through the foil and drink the cream. Within a few years, blue-tits all over England were doing it. Even birds that were separated by miles, birds that could never have seen each other. Scientists thought maybe birds taught each other, but then World War II happened. Milk delivery stopped for 8 years. All the birds that knew the trick died. When milk delivery started again, new birds immediately started opening the bottles. Birds that were born after the war. Birds that never saw the old birds do it. How did they know? Here's another one. When scientists create a new chemical crystal for the first time, it's very hard to make. The crystal doesn't want to form. But the second time someone makes it, it's easier. The third time, even easier. Scientists used to think maybe tiny bits of the first crystal traveled through the air and seeded the new crystals. But experiments in sealed labs on different continents still show the same thing. It's like the universe learns how to make the crystal, and then it becomes easier everywhere. So why should you care about morphic resonance? Because if this theory is true, then everything you do matters more than you think. When you struggle to learn something new, you're not just learning for yourself. You're making it easier for everyone who comes after you. You're a pioneer. You are creating a path in the morphic field. This is why new technology feels hard at first, but a few years later, even kids can use it easily. Every time you do something good or bad, you strengthen that habit's morphic field. If you practice kindness, you make kindness easier for others. If you practice anger, you make anger easier too. You're not alone. You're connected to everyone through these invisible fields. This might explain why sometimes you think of a friend and then they text you, or why certain songs get stuck in everyone's head at the same time, or why protests and movements can spread so fast across the world. We're all tuned into the same field. If morphic fields exist, then you can create new fields. You can break old patterns. When you choose to do something different, something better, you're not just changing yourself, you're changing the field. You're making it easier for the next person to make that same choice. You have more power than you think. Now I have to be honest with you. Most scientists do not accept morphic resonance. They say Sheldrake's theory can't be proven. They say the experiments aren't controlled enough. They say it sounds too much like magic. Some call it pseudoscience, but here's the thing. Sheldrake keeps doing experiments. He's tested telepathy in dogs. He's tested the sense of being stared at. He's tested whether people can feel when someone is thinking about them. And he keeps finding results that traditional science can't explain. Maybe he is wrong. Maybe there's another explanation we haven't found yet. But maybe, just maybe, he's onto something real. After all, many great ideas in history were called crazy at first. Galileo was called crazy. Einstein was adopted. The idea that tiny invisible germs cause disease was laughed at. Sometimes the craziest ideas turn out to be true. So here's what I want you to take away from this video. Whether morphic resonance is scientifically proven or not, the idea itself is powerful. It reminds us that we're all connected, that what we do matters, that the universe might be more alive, more aware, more full of memory than we ever imagined. Every time you learn something hard, you're creating a path for others. Every time you break a bad habit, you're weakening that habit's power in the world. Every time you choose love over fear, creation over destruction, growth over comfort, you're not just changing your life, you're changing the field. You're changing reality for everyone. Think about that next time you struggle with something new. You're not failing, you're pioneering. You're the first one cutting through the jungle so that others can walk on a clear path. You are more powerful than you know. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever experienced something that felt like morphic resonance? Have you ever learned something that suddenly felt easier after someone else learned it first, or felt a strange connection to someone far away? Drop your stories in the comments. Let's explore this mystery together. And if this video made you think differently about reality, hit that like button. Subscribe for more deep dives into the mysterious of consciousness, the universe, and the strange things science can't explain yet. Remember, you're not just watching videos, you're expanding your mind, and when you expand your mind, you expand the possibilities for everyone. See you in the next video. Stay curious, stay open, and keep questioning everything.